Now I had done my test run, so I was ready for a bash. Everything was checked, controlled, set up, everything to the best of my ability. And the first thing I noticed for the test run was that there was a bunch of debris. I live in the countryside, so there's all kinds of stuff flying around and on the roads and the fields and everywhere. So that was kind of like the first modification or mod I did to my Kronos, was to attach these stone guards or mud guards in the front, and made a really nice thing like that, and was basically just modding a little aluminum plate on the top steering plate. So that was a nice mod, and the first mod that I did right there. The second mod was an RPM bumper. I'm pretty used to having a bumper right there in the front, so that's what I like. The RPM one is for a Durango or a normal 6S, but with a bit of modification it did fit the Kronos as well. So first thing I broke, was the wing mount. It was during my first bash, and it was a bit cold outside. Now the wing mount is a really nice piece of design. It's very sturdy plastic, but it's a bit too sturdy, so it doesn't really flex. So first bad landing that I did, it broke right off. So the remedy for that was to make another wing mount, and since I'm also into 3D printing, it was kind of an easy task. I designed a similar wing mount, and I printed that out of a flex filament. It's called hard TPU, and from extruder, and that was a tip from Marcus Phillip. That's a filament he's been using for a long time, and although Team Corelli has released better parts and some enforcement parts and everything for this, I actually kept this one a long time. It's been holding up great. So another thing that I also broke during those first bashes was, I believe it was during my first bash, I broke the steering servo. Now I know these kind of RTR servos usually aren't the best, but they should last for more than a bash. But anyway, it stopped working. It burned up kind of right away, and I got a little bit suspicious of that, because everything had been set up and the endpoints were set, and everything seemed to be working really nice. So I went back and I rechecked everything, and I rechecked my steering servo, and I actually set the servo saver a bit loose, and I fitted another servo, an SRT. It's kind of like a budget servo, but I used this kind in a bunch of my other cars, and they've been working great. So, but anyway, this in the Kronos, the SRT lasted for half a pack. So I made a little video about that, and I also asked Corelli, and they said, well, and they started talking about analog and digital servos, and you had to use steel gears and all sorts of things. And anyway, the discussion kind of ended up, well, if you're going to bash, you need a better servo. So, well, I didn't want to spend a lot of money on an expensive servo right away, since I just paid a large amount of money for the car. So what I did was I refitted everything, and also I did a mod that Marcus Phillip came up with, was to extend the arm that runs between the servo horn and the servo saver, and that way somehow the third servo that I fitted was actually a stock Arma 6S servo, from a V3. It's not the best servo really, and they usually gives up after a while, but with that little mod it seemed to be working really well. So while the steering was working and I was pretty happy running on 4S, I made a short video because I had gotten this in December and there was snow and it was cold and everything, but in February the snow went away and it was a nice sunny day, and well, it had been raining for like 2 months, so it was time to make a bash. I had made another body meantime for it, a white Durango truggy body that I fitted, and it went pretty well. I went outside in my front yard right here on the road, and it was kind of cool. It was nice. At that time I was pretty happy with it, and I thought, well, just do some tuning and it's all set up, and I'm happy. Now, just a week later, I was bashing in my front yard right here. I had set up a little jump and that, so running on a 4S pack, like I said, the steering worked great and everything, and I was just about to, the pack got kind of low, so I was just heading into the workshop, and I ran into the curb outside. A pretty mild hit, but what I did was that I broke the lower arm right there by the shock mounts, and the top arm kind of twisted its way out and flew loose, and that broke the turnbuckle, also bent the CVD and bent the shock shaft. So well, I got a little bit pissed over that, because it was a pretty mild hit, and a rig of this caliber should kind of be able to take that. Now, I didn't know which order that happened in, if it happened with the lower arm first, but I actually believe it started with the top arm coming loose, because it's actually a pretty weak point right here, in my opinion, for the upper arm. And the upper arm got loose, and it broke the turnbuckle, and it broke the lower one because it didn't really have any support from the top one. That's my theory anyway. So I made a post about that, and I asked Corelli, well, hey, what do you think about this? And basically the answer to that was, well, if you hit something, something's gonna break. And well, shit happens. So anyway, that was that. So what I did was that I kind of had to make it a bit more durable, because at that time I didn't really trust the rig. Every time I went out, something broke, and every time I bashed with it for every pack, it cost me money because I had to buy more parts. And I'm used to that with other cars too. I mean, they're not perfect, but I really didn't trust the car in that sense, because I didn't know what more could break, even if I didn't crash, so to speak. So I set it on the workbench, and I kind of decided to install RPM arms. The RPM arms are like, this is the upper one. First of all, it has like it's wider on the inside, which leaves it sturdier when it's mounted on the hinge pin like that. So I used that one, and I also used a threaded hinge pin from an Arma, and I made an aluminum, a top steering plate in aluminum, that I could use those threaded things, and I had a bar over here, so kind of like copying an Arma setup really. and that felt really nice, and I was quite happy with that. I also of course fitted the lower arms, and well, I ran it like that for a while, and it felt pretty nice. At the same time that I did that, the RPM thing, I was going to do the rear as well, but it ended up kind of hard to do because the dog bones were different lengths and everything. So I really didn't take the time to make the RPM mod in the rear, and also I never had any problems with the rear arms, so I kind of kept it like that. So while the arms and everything were, I'm happy with the arms, RPMs up front, everything, left the rear as it were. I actually ran since I had to use Arma CVDs up front, I actually stuck the Kronos CVDs in the rear and ran it like that for a while. That was pretty nice. Anyway, what I also did was I replaced the stock shocks. Now, I know most people do like these shocks, but, well, I never gotten really friendly with them in that sense. I had problems with it that they leaked. If you tightened it too much, the bladder slipped, and if you didn't tighten it enough, it leaked. So I solved the cap one with some Teflon tape and a mild tightening, but then it started leaking in the bottom right there. So when I crashed, I also bent a shock shaft, and I got tired of him after that, and I didn't want to really buy any parts for him. Also, I had problem with tuning him. I guess I'm not an experienced shock tuner or anything, but anyway, I tried some different type of oils and stuff, and I never really liked how they performed. So also they're 3.5 millimeters, and well, that's part of why I don't like him. Also, these springs, they're really nice and black from the beginning, but pretty soon the paint starts shipping from them. They're not as nice anymore. So anyway, what I did was I fitted some shocks from Arma 6S, Creighton or Outcast, kind of the same. These shocks I do like. I have good experience in tuning them. I don't really do much to them except switch out the rod end for some RPM ones, and well, they've been great on my Armas, and they've also been really great on the Kronos. After that February bash, it was kind of like I said, there were the crash, there were the RPM fitting. I rebuilt it a couple of times. I made the mudguards for the rear. There's been a bunch of mods to it, and in March I was kind of ready. I had fitted the braces. I kind of took the braces and I modded them, since I wanted to fit another body on there. The stock body is okay, but I had a little problem with the wheels. Kind of like when they balloon a bit, they kind of touch the body, and there was some kind of strange sound, and the body was kind of a bit like too flimsy. So I wanted to fit another body, and so I fitted this one. This is a J Concepts, an old Illusion body, and it fit perfectly on there. And I kind of got, like I said, right there, I was really happy with how the truck ran on 4S. I was really happy with how it was set up and everything, and I think everything was perfect. And I kind of think, well, I got a good Basher truck. So it was March on the field and everything, on the gravel roads and stuff, really, really dirty. But we have a bit away from me, we have an industrial area where there's some asphalt and stuff. So I went down there to make some speed runs with it. And so I had my new body, and I fitted a camera and everything on the back right there. And well, it was a fun day. I tried a couple of different wheels, and but I wanted to run them stock, so I tried the stock ones, and it felt really nice. I made a video about that, and I came up with some pretty good speed. And like I said, I mean, it's like a month between my bashes, and every time I bring it out, I was amazed how well it runs on 4S. Just incredible. But like I explained earlier, the total gear ratio kind of explains that. Fast forward a couple of months, a couple of small bashes, couple of this, couple of that. It's been a lot of fun. I have a bunch of other cars, so I don't really bash with my Kronos every time, or I don't bring the Kronos every time. But in July, there were, I mean, summer, all that, really nice. I brought the Kronos down to kind of like an old sand pit, and they have a jump and all that. And I was really excited to bring it over there, because first of all, it was nice weather. It's a basher truck, it's sand, so I had a really great time over there. But the thing was, now all of a sudden I went from like March, April, we have like +5 degrees Celsius. Now in July there was like 25 degrees Celsius. It was a lot warmer. So after bashing around and jumping around a bit right there, and all of a sudden the truck went, or the ESC went into thermal. So I waited a bit, I restarted it, and it went into thermal again. And now I understood what the people in the group were talking about when they ran 6S, or the ones that lived in warmer climates. So anyway, what I did was, since I was really happy with how the truck was set up and the shocks were set up and how it was jumping everything, I really thought I had just one more thing to do with it, was the cooling. I got some advice from other people that, hey, change out your ESC to a Max 6, change out your motor. Sure, I can do that, but I wanted to run it stock as most as possible. I mean, for everything that you buy into it, you got to consider all the upgrades. It's like I bought a better servo. Sure, I'm really happy with it, but if I were to buy an expensive servo, an expensive motor, an expensive ESC, I might as well just buy a whole nother car. So I want to keep it as stock as possible. Also, since since for the months, I usually put the Kronos up on the workbench like every couple of weeks, and I do a change and this and that. So it's kind of like the third or fourth time that it's been completely rebuilt, and every time I do things a little bit different. But anyway, what I did was I switched out the fan, and I put a little screen right there inside the ESC, though, so the fan wouldn't be disturbed with the breeze and sand and stuff. I also put a Hobbywing heatsink on there with it's kind of like a cheap heatsink fan combo, but still it works. I got them on a few other cars too, and so that has kind of kept the temperatures at bay, along with some shorter run times. Now, during all this in the group, I mean, it's been like 6-7 months since they released the Kronos. There's been tons of complaints there's been this, there's been that, but all along Corelli's people and their CEO has been in the group listening to folks. I mean, we may not be their development team of any kind, but at least we have some inputs or some influence to what they change. So a bunch of stuff has been addressed, like the grease in the diffs, really nice, and the arms, upper arms, the rear arms, the top steering plate, the wing mount. There's been so many things addressed. It's just incredible in a short amount of time. And by August, it was finally they actually started to release the V2 parts. The V2 parts had been tested like for a couple of months prior to that, but by August it was kind of like time to release like an upgrade pack. And incredibly nicely done of Corelli to just offer a solution. It was not only to us that bought one in Europe, it was actually like a worldwide solution, totally unheard of, and it all happened between December and August. Really, a really short amount of time for a bunch of upgrades to be released, and also to be released in such a nice way so that the users wouldn't have to buy them full price. This is what the look I call update bag Kronos. This, I think, this retailed for about 200 euros, and I ended up buying it for 40 euros, I believe, plus the shipping. But in this pack, for those 40 euros, I got new turnbuckles, and I got new drive cups, I got new braces, I got new arms, everything. So an incredible value, and really nicely done of Corelli to make it like that. You simply registered your car on the side. So if you had two Kronoses, or if you had a Kronos and a Typhoon and a Shogun or whatever, you bought one pack for each of the ones to a reduced price. Really nice. So what they did was they actually made a lot of parts stronger. They made the braces stronger, they made the arms stronger, they made the top steering plate stronger. Like I said, about reinforcement for the rear and everything. Really nice. And what happened with the arms was that they got really beefy. These are the version 1s, and these are the V2s. Anyway, this was really exciting because all of a sudden I could build it more back to stock like I wanted to. I could actually get rid of the RPM thing and all that setup and everything I did right there. So and going back to stock. The only thing I got, like I said, since I always overthink stuff. The one thing I got disappointed over was that these are the V1 front arms and these are the V2 front arms. Same thing as the rear ones, a lot beefier. But what I've been asking all along was, since the upper arm was a bit weak on the inside, and I wanted wider right there to match the RPM one a bit better. I got a bit surprised that it didn't change it at all. It was exactly the same as the V1. The only that's different is the material. The upgrade pack received everything. The V2 arms fitted, and the truck was mostly back to stock. But I did keep my aluminum top steering plate for a while there. In the middle of August 2020, there was time for this Monster Air event. Driving around with the Kronos right there was a bit fun, but I wanted to jump with it to see how it performed. I was really happy with it last time I jumped with it, so I knew it was perfectly tuned and everything. So anyway, I started to jump right there, 4S and everything, and the truck performed really well. It, like I said, it might look funny because I need to propel myself through the air in order to make the jump. So I kind of managed that pretty well. But what happened now was that the arms were, I mean, I really thought the arms was going to break, but hey, no way, man. I mean, these arms are like super sturdy. I don't think they're ever going to break. And they didn't break. But what happened was that after a couple of jumps, the lower hinge pins kind of flew out. So anyway, back and fixed that, and it was this piece. It was kind of like it kind of bent itself out because this is kind of like a bit buttery aluminum that sits inside the composite casings, and it just couldn't take the hits from the landings, I guess. So I fixed that. I bent that back and forth, and I made a couple of more jumps, and the other ones gave up. So that was kind of it. I made about 8 or 9 jumps and showed it to a bunch of people. I was happy with the session, but I went home and checked through everything. I had bent all the 4 hinge pins. I had lost the hinge pin. I had broken one on there. The rear dog bone was bent like a noodle. So I kind of got tired after that, really. I took it apart and I stuck it in a box.